On January 10th, 2025, the Canadian government announced that the iZEV Incentive for Zero-Emission Vehicles program will pause after the remaining funds are claimed. And at that point, there was about $71 million left. We pulled information on this program and we found some interesting facts. One single brand claimed over 8,000 EVs just before the federal rebate paused. In this video, we will look at the data and see which brands benefit the most of this iZEV rebate program. And I know some of you, why is the Canadian taxpayers paying for this? Well, it is what it is. Let's get to it and look at how the money was spent. Hey, it's LSF here today, and today we're here to look at the closure of the iZEV program that paused on January 12th due to lack of funds. Okay, so you heard in the beginning I said January 10th, the Canadian government said that it's going to pause it when the funds are gone. But on the 12th, 2 days later, the funds disappeared. It's all used up. So first thing is, I will look at how many Lexus NXs and Toyota owners in Canada took advantage of this program and a little bit more details behind that. As I mentioned in the introduction, there was one brand that claimed 8,000 rebates over a weekend. So I'm going to compare that and you tell me if it makes sense or not. All right, so first things first, 570,848 vehicles took advantage of this. So this is the information that I pulled off the Canadian government data, and I did remove some columns because it's too big. Google Sheets wouldn't even fit it. First, we look at the funds claimed by brand. So if you're interested in looking at this, you can definitely pause and then you'll be able to look at the details, but I will not go through every single brand here. I'll just highlight a few. So first one is the brand that used the least of the iZEV program, and that is the Cadillac. The Cadillac has the Oblique that has two vehicles that claimed it at $5,000 each to $10,000. So then we can see that Chevrolet has $284 million. That's 56,000 vehicles. You can see that BMW and Audi 41 to 22 million, 8,000 to 5,000 vehicles, which just seems very normal. And then let's look at the next one, Hyundai, $395 million, which seems to be one of the higher ones here, 82,295 vehicles. And then we have Kia, 198 million. So you can see that Kia is about half of what Hyundai claimed, 42,000 vehicles. That seems to be quite healthy. Lexus, so this is the NX450h Plus, got 2,669 vehicles, about $13 million claimed. And again, I want to emphasize that I personally have not taken advantage of this because when I got my NX, it was before the NX qualified for the iZEV program. So don't blame me if you're saying that I'm using taxpayers' money. I did not. So the next one I will want to emphasize here is Mitsubishi. You can see that they don't really have much of an EV, but their Outlander seems to be quite successful. You can see 32,000 vehicles got claimed. $139 million. That seems to be quite a chunk. Polestar, 5,970 vehicles, 25 million. And then lastly, I want to talk about two more brands, and that is Toyota. So I'm going to go and scroll to Toyota. You can see that the BZ4X, 11,000 vehicles at about $58 million. The Mirai, 30 vehicles actually got claimed, $150,000. The Prius and the Prius Prime and the plug-in hybrid, because they changed their name, you can see $82 million here and roughly $25,560. The RAV4 Prime and the plug-in hybrid, really when you look at that, that's $135 million. And when you look at that, that's about 27,000 vehicles. So overall, you can see that Toyota claimed roughly about 64,000 vehicles. But then when you look at this, it's just right in between the Hyundai and Kia world. But then you can think about it, there's not that many BEVs. So then when you talk about BEVs, you can't stop thinking about Tesla. I know, roughly, Tesla sales most likely have gone tanked recently, but you can see here, so you can see about 146,000 vehicles claimed and $729 million. So when you add up the Hyundai, the Kia, so the two Koreans, that's about 500, almost $600 million. That's still far from the $729 million. So I have to add like a Ford on top to claim very similar to what the Tesla has claimed. Since people who actually watch my videos are Lexus NX owners, so when you look at here, this is just the breakdown of the years. So 2022, about 387 owners have qualified, about $2 million were claimed, and then 2023, 961, 2024, 1,263, and just the first 12 days, about 58 vehicles were claimed. So we go by province. So Alberta claimed 219 vehicles, BC 697, Manitoba 28, New Brunswick 48, Nova Scotia 78, Ontario did 810, Quebec did 758, and then Saskatchewan 31. So overall, that's the 2,669. So then when we go ahead and look at the dealership allocation, so for Ontario, the winner is the Don Valley North Lexus with 155 vehicles throughout the full program. In Quebec, you can see that Lexus Laval, 159, so a little bit more than Don Valley North Lexus here. The winner overall is Open Road Lexus in British Columbia with 218 vehicles. And then you can see the winner of Alberta is Lexus of Edmonton with 87 vehicles. And then the rest are just, there's only one dealership who actually claimed in those provinces. So overall, when you look at it, definitely Quebec seems to be more balanced if you look at the allocation. But then when you look into Ontario, it seems to be not as balanced. So what I'm going to do is now look at the number of vehicles claimed per day throughout the program. And yes, it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but I have this chart here. You can definitely see that they do sell like claims like about 700 a day. Going up here, there's a peak at 1,044 a day. And later on, you can see here 2023, August, 1,650 a day. And there's a peak here, 1,860, 1531 in August 2024. And then you can see here, December 30th, about 2,000 vehicles were claimed. But then when you look at this peak, on the 11th, so the day after they announced that the funds are getting dry, 6,144 vehicles claimed. So that means if you look at the average, that's 3 days worth at the peak, or if you're looking at an average, that's probably a long time. So I don't know what happened there, right? So then when you look at this, we were looking, okay, does that make sense? So then we start looking at, okay, since October to the end of the program, you can see that the trend is very stable. You can see that every single day, you can see that the sales, the claims are very similar. And then when it's closer to Christmas, you can see that there's some fluctuation before New Year's. You can see that there's a lot less claim. People aren't able to get their cars out, so they're not claiming as much. So then when you look at it on the 6th, you start seeing a little bit more, like 1,148 claimed. But then on the 10th is when they announced that the money is going dry. 2,375 vehicles were claimed. Look at the day before, 1,583. And the day before that, 804. Okay? Then when you look at the 11th, 6,144. That was a Saturday. Sunday, they also claimed 1,261 vehicles. Okay? So when you look at Sunday, so the 12th was a Sunday. So the 17th is a Sunday, and that is 158 vehicles claimed. So you can see here, this is a Sunday, 229. This Sunday, 37. This Sunday, 105. This Sunday, 70. You get my point here, right? It's been always in hundreds, but suddenly it went to 1,261. That's 10 times of a normal Sunday. Follow me on Instagram at LSFT Videos. You can see updates on my experience with the NX450h Plus, which may not be shown on any future videos. You can reach out to me via direct messaging if you have any questions on your Lexus. If you like this video, you can provide me feedback in the comments below, like this video, share it with your friends. This definitely will help with the YouTube algorithms. Press the subscribe button and bell icon and get notified when new videos show up. And lastly, if you want to support me further, you can provide me a super thanks, or visit my Amazon storefront before you purchase anything from Amazon, or you can purchase products from the list on the items that I've been using with my vehicle or at home at no extra cost to you. And now let's continue with the video. So then when we look at this, we start looking at, okay, which brands actually took advantage of the rebates at the end, right? So without just looking at the last 4 days, we're looking at the last 14 days here. And from the total numbers, we know that Hyundai is probably a very good one to look at, right? So if you look at Hyundai here, the last 14 days, they did about $5.4 million of claim, and that's about 1,088. When you look at that, 317, 136, you have 2 on the New Year's, 67 on the next day, 44. You don't see a real big spike. Everything seems to be extremely normal for Hyundai doing their claims. This was a Saturday, and they didn't claim anything on Sunday. So then when we look at Kia, okay, so Kia, 2.5 million, and that looks very similar because, again, Kia was about half of what Hyundai did from the program itself, right? So 531 seems very reasonable as well. So overall, when you look at Kia, same thing. Sundays, they never claimed much on Sundays. And then you can see here also, they didn't claim anything on Sunday. So then we look at Toyota, because Toyota was between what Kia and what Hyundai would actually claim. And normally you can see here, Toyota claimed 550 vehicles at 2.7 million. Again, nothing was claimed on the last day of Sunday. And when you look at the sales, 125, 61, 120, everything seems to be quite normal. All right, so then what was that brand, right? Well, when I went to Toyota, you would have probably seen the brand that actually claimed the most. So you can see here, on the 30th, they claimed 1.6 million vehicles. And then 1.2, New Year's, they've claimed 206 vehicles at $1 million. Okay, that seems reasonable. They're still working, right? 900,000. So you can see every day they've been claiming quite reasonable numbers until suddenly on the 9th, they claimed $5 million at 1,000 vehicles. The government announced that the monies are drying up on the 10th, 1566. So 7.8 million. So 5 suddenly from 1.4, like you can see these numbers are about 1 million, 1.4, suddenly to 5.3, and then 7.8. Saturday, 29 million. So when the government told you money is drying out, they claimed 5,842 vehicles on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, they didn't give up. They continued. 1,261 vehicles were claimed, $6.3 million. So overall in this 14-day span, they claimed $58 million with 11,778 vehicles claimed. So just to get a sense here, the 14 days here, they claimed 11,000 vehicles. We couldn't find information about how many vehicles they sold in Canada on 2024. However, we have a sense because there are some numbers that came out about 50,000-ish, I think about 50-something thousand are the vehicles that they sold in Canada in 2024. When you look at that, not all vehicles that Tesla sells can qualify for this rebate. It's only the 3 and the Y. So we assume that Tesla has sold 40-ish thousand Model 3 and Ys, and when you look at that, in 14 days, they sold 25% of their yearly sales in Canada. Does that make sense? Is that considered fair to other brands? Other brands, like you can see here, Chevrolet, from 350,000 to 500,000, there seems to be a bump, but then they did have like 600,000, so I wouldn't question this one. And then when you look at Ford, 486,000. It looks like they saw the news and they did have something paperwork that they needed to do, and they did it. And I think that's reasonable because you can look at the six, they did claim 400,000 vehicles as well. And then when you look at Hyundai, same thing, 500,000, 200,000, but you can see they did claim like 692,000 here. So I wouldn't question that they did something to actually get all the paperwork done. And what do you think? Do you think that there's something fishy here? I don't understand why the last 4 days of the program, they claimed $48 million. And they claimed 9,741 vehicles. That seems to be a lot. All right, so when you look at even more information, they said that Quebec City's dealership, they claimed $20 million in that one weekend. 4,000 vehicles in that one dealership. And you can see here in the Greater Toronto area, the two Toronto dealerships, you can see $14 million in one and $4 million on another, both totaling about 3,600 vehicles. How can you sell that many cars over a weekend? And then you look at British Columbia, $7 million of rebates with 1,450 vehicles over the same weekend as well. That seems to be very ridiculous across the board. I know Teslas are selling well, but 888,866 vehicles a year in Canada, that is a little bit ambitious, right? I do not know why this is happening, but definitely Transport Canada really needs to look at this and really tell us why this happened. There has been reports from other media about this already, and what they're saying is it's strange that Tesla can file so many applications in one weekend. And they reached out to Transport Canada, and what they're saying is there's little enforcement of the incentive application process. Like they're saying that some of the filed applications are vehicles that they already have sold. So with that information in mind, so I was looking at the information about Tesla, right? So they're saying that when we look at all the data since the day where they started the incentive, so 5,842 were the max claimed vehicles per day, and that is that Saturday. But then when you look at it, maximum claimed per day prior to the 9th, meaning before this day that we see here, it was 1,284 cars in one day. So throughout since 2019 all the way to 2025, the maximum is 1,284. So then when we look at it between the 9th and the 12th, so these 4 days, they claimed 9,741 vehicles. So then we look from January 8th, we went all the way back to November 14th, 2024 to get 9,792 vehicles. So that's 55 days. So in 4 days, they sold 55 days worth of cars. I don't think that makes sense. Okay, so they say that the cars were sold prior. Sure, let's say 10 days worth of cars. But still, even with that, that's about 2,000, let's say 2,000 vehicles. Even with that, there is still 7,000 vehicles. Where on earth are they getting 7,000 vehicles sold in such a short time period? I do feel that there is something fishy here, but when you look at it, what can you do? I'm hoping that Transport Canada will actually do something about it and do further investigations on how did this happen. Especially when you look at it, they announced it on the 10th, saying that there were $71 million left in the bank. And when you look at it, prior to the 10th, on the 9th, for whatever reason, they got 1,000 vehicles in. So when you look at it, where is 1,000 vehicles? I go all the way. You don't see any day they've sold 1,000 vehicles. And if you look at, if it's a practice for cars that are sold, they don't put it in, why don't I see suddenly there's one day that they will claim 1,000 vehicles? See, I don't see any days here that they claim 1,000 vehicles throughout the year and a half. So definitely something is fishy here. How come on the 9th they've claimed 1,000 vehicles? And that is like how many days? You're talking about 6 days worth of vehicles on the 9th, the day before they told the world that there were not much funding left. So did Tesla get a head start? That's another question I want to answer. What I can say is I've had a few viewers reach out to me just after that weekend saying that, oh, it dried up and it's done. And now I was expecting the $5,000 to come in, and now I'm out of it. What do I do? And they were picking up their car on that Monday. Very sad. And I would say that if this is a fair practice, then I don't think it's fair. But do leave in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think that they have been fair? Let me know in comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found that this video was informative, and until next video, drive safely. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please comment, like, share this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel and press that bell icon to get notified when new videos are posted. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can provide me a super thanks. And until next time, cheers.